I got to tell you, when I got in this morning, I was going through the news, and in Trumbull, just last night, there were 2 juveniles that stole a car in the Trumbull Mall. And then police are now investigating a shooting in North Haven. To talk about this, because I got to tell you, we need to come up with an answer to this. We cannot go much longer with our cities and our citizens unprotected.
How's that going? Our next guest into the Daily Connerton Memorial Company interview chair is a state senator. In filling, listen, you can't fill the shoes for Len Fasano, former Senate Republican leader, but you can fill the district. We love when we have him on. Let's welcome back State Senator Paul Cicarella. Paul, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm very well. And yourself?
Well, I'm doing my best over here. We're trying to hang in there, as they say. Earlier last week in West Hartford, there was a 16-year-old stole a car that had a 2-year-old in the back seat. And I know that you heard of this. And we all saw the story a couple of weeks back where the jogger in New Britain who went out for a jog and never came home. And the teen who allegedly hit him was driving a stolen car, and he also had a violent criminal history. So, Senator, please, if you can just talk about why action needs to happen as soon as possible to help curtail these future tragedies.
I agree with you. I was just listening to your show a few moments ago, and we were talking about all of the stuff that was going on, and that's why we need to take action. Innocent people are getting hurt every day. We heard of the cars being stolen or the kids breaking into cars, stealing change and whatever was in it. It's not that. Not that that's okay. That's not what's going on now.
No.
They're stealing these cars and they're committing violent crimes. And they're organized. This is not an isolated incident. They're stealing the cars to use them for robberies, drive-by shootings, other violent crimes. It just happened, I think you mentioned earlier, in North Haven.
Yeah.
And something needs to happen. People say that, we can't be too tough on these juveniles because we're not going to give them, we don't want to throw them away and throw away the key and lock them up. But we're not helping them either, because all we're allowing them to do is commit these crimes and become better criminals. We have to show them a different way, and we have to take action, because by trying to help this small group of juveniles that are committing these crimes, we're hurting the mass public. We're hurting everyday people. I get calls from my constituents every day saying how afraid they are just to go to the grocery store. And it just can't be that way anywhere, in the cities, suburbs, anywhere.
Yeah, we can say that, though. But apparently public safety is not a priority for the legislature because, let's face it, the Democrats, who really, because they're in the majority in both chambers, they can call a special session to address this. But apparently it's just not a priority. How can it not be?
Well, I think it is. And I don't think all Democrats agree with leadership that says this isn't a problem. So I do think that there is reasonable people on the other side that hopefully when we do get a chance to take a vote on something, they're going to vote the right way. We have to find a way to solve the problem, and how it's happening and how it needs to happen is talk to the people that are involved in these incidents every day. Talk to the police officers. Talk to the chiefs of police in the area. Talk to the state's attorney. Talk to counselors that are dealing with these juveniles, juvenile probation, and that's what I've started doing along with a few other people. Probably about 2 weeks ago, I sat down with multiple chiefs of police, have other appointments coming up with individuals that could tell us what's going on and how they think change should be made. We need to take the direction from the people that are dealing with this every day, day in, day out, because they're getting discouraged. We have police officers that are catching individuals stealing these vehicles that have done it 14, 15 times, and they're going home before the officer gets out of their shift. And that has to change.
Yeah, it really does, but it needs to change, sadly, Senator, sooner rather than later. As you said, you're a former corrections officer. So talk about Talk about that experience and how it has informed you, or more specifically, your views as a state senator. I mean, it's one thing that looking at your past as a corrections officer. Now you're now you're a lawmaker. Let's compare and contrast, if you will.
Sure. So I think one more important piece of that equation is my current position as an investigator. And I think that's what would make me a better lawmaker. I have my law enforcement background, and I have my investigation business now. And we do criminal defense work. We do a wide variety of investigation, other criminal reinvestigation, loss prevention. So we do so many types of different things in my profession now that I think my past experience in this business that I'm in now makes me a better lawmaker because I see both sides. I see a lot of different perspectives from multiple different types of businesses. We help municipalities, other government agencies deal with their issues all the time. So I think having that well-rounded background gives me an upper hand to be able to, I guess, really see a situation and analyze it by taking in information and being able to try to come up with a reasonable solution.
That makes sense to me. You say there's other police officers that are also legislators, and really, it's really the corrections officers and the police officers that can really provide valuable information in real life, real world experience that you've endured in corrections and in law enforcement. It's just sad that information, while vital, is really not taken with more seriousness when it comes to enforcing the laws. Because let's face it, Senator, you know as well as I do, because you have constituency, that a lot of our citizens feel like the victims have no rights, and in fact, the ones with the rights are the actual perpetrators of the crime.
You're absolutely right, and that's how people are feeling, and I hear it from my constituents every single day, and that's a problem. We talked about creating laws and doing it with a sense of urgency and with such detail, if that's the right word, because sometimes the unintended consequences of legislation puts us in issues that we're in right now. It could create more problems than it does to solve a small problem. It creates a much larger problem. And you said something just before that, we do have some police officers, corrections officers, firefighters, other first responders up there with us at the Capitol. And you're right. I do think that if we're going to be making legislation about first responders or law enforcement, that we take insight from those professions and really listen to what people were saying, especially with this police accountability bill that just passed. Everybody that was in law enforcement that spoke said this was going to be a bad thing for certain reasons.
Right.
And they're correct. You're taking away the consent to search. That's how we're taking guns off the street. That's how we're taking drugs off the street. And anybody that says that that's not a good thing, they haven't been in the shoes of law enforcement and first responders.
And that's key.
Firefighters.
You're right. We're talking with State Senator Paul Cicarella. I mean, it's kind of like, let's say I ran an organization in some town and I was offering, cooking lessons. Come and sign up at the library. We're going to put on cooking lessons for the community. And somebody came forward and said, I happen to be a chef. Not only am I a chef, I'm a pretty sought after, renowned chef. Hey, if you have me, I'm a citizen of this community. If I can be of help, please feel free to reach out. And I'm the coordinator of this, recreational organization in town. And I say, well, of course, holy cow. It's not every day that I put on a cooking clinic and I got a renowned chef coming over to ask me or offer his or her services to me. Well, that's an analogy where, you got lawmakers who are looking for help. And what do we do about this juvenile crime crisis? I think we're in a crisis when it comes to that. So all of a sudden, coming forward are legislators who happen to have a background in what? law enforcement, whether it's corrections or as a police officer, and they say, listen, got some information here. I've got a wealth of experience, a lifetime of experience. In fact, let me help give you some advice of maybe we can curtail this. Now, it would be common sense for the legislature to say, thank you, this is what we've been looking for. But no. And actually, those officers are on both sides of the political aisle. So what has everybody scratching their heads, Senator, is that we've got experienced legislators who happen to have a background in policing, whether it's corrections or as a police officer, who are bringing some vital, suggestions to the table, and it's falling on deaf ears. That's incredibly frustrating, and it just lets the electorate, the listeners of this show and the citizens of our state saying, you've got part of the solution right here. Why are you not listening to them? Do you not care about us and what we're enduring here?
Well said, great analogy. And I'm scratching my head as well, and I'm sure other people are. I just hope that there's a lot of listeners and a lot of people paying attention to those type of things right there, because I've only been up there as my first session,
right?
But I'm scratching my head a lot up there. I'm seeing a lot of crazy stuff. So I just hope that there's people paying attention to what's really going on up there.
Yeah.
And make some smart decisions when it comes time to decide who's going to get a chance to go back up there.
Well, yeah, and I mean, in this situation, I'd be listening to you all day long, as well as the other police officer or retired police officers, active police officers. There's other corrections officers up there, and really, I want to reiterate, they're not just Republicans. So I can understand where not that this makes it right, but if the Democrat leadership, if the majority party leadership said, well, they're all coming from Republicans and there's names going to be on it. And no, we're not going to listen. It's really Republican and Democrat law officers, which just makes it more baffling. What are your constituents telling you? Are they fearful of running just simple daily errands?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see why.
That's probably majority of my car got stolen. I have video footage, and why can't someone help me? And they just don't realize what the laws are. That once they do catch the juvenile offender, there's not much that's going to happen. And there are other things that need to be, I guess you could say, investigated that hopefully have some consequences for the actions when